Hi, everybody. This is Brooke with Conversations with Brooke, where we talk about my damaging life in a cult for 25 plus years so that I can help people overcome what they went through. I make light of it because I cry in half these videos, so sometimes I have to make jokes. So hopefully you guys understand. You've been through some fucking shit, and sometimes the only thing you can do is laugh about some of it because it can be ridiculous. So a lot of times I'm going to talk about experiences I've had and what I've done, but sometimes I want to come here and I want to talk to you about some of the tools and things that you're going to need to work on to heal. Not everybody's going to need the same stuff, but a lot of it's pretty universal for all of us. A lot of people need this whether or not they had the dysfunctional background that we had or had the amount of time in that experience. So today I want to talk about nutrition. And, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the dysfunction that happens when you're in these environments as far as the food that you eat goes and how you can begin to fix that. And, the tools that you can put back in so that you can have a healthy relationship with food. So when I talk about having a negative relationship with food, mine pretty much started once we joined the environment that we joined. Because I don't remember ever having an issue prior to that. I was pretty normal, and my parents were, it's funny because my parents were hippies, and when I say that, my dad was going to law school at the same time, so they were educated hippies. My mom was she was a state licensed midwife, which, there's doctors out there that take that test that have trouble passing it. They knew their stuff about a lot of different things. So I went from parents who were vegetarian to vegan side. I think my first cake was a spice cake sweetened with honey and I never had fast food until one of my grandmothers took me and my sister to go get fast food for the very first time. And if I remember right, might have been Wendy's. I had one grandmother who used to always take us to Wendy's. And I remember getting flurries and stuff like that. French fries and flurries. Things that we never had at home. We were not eating that stuff in my parents' house. It was hysterical. So my grandparents, that was their treat, was they would take us to get all these things that my parents would never take us to get. So, fast forward, we end up joining this cult, and as it became fairly collective, and what I mean by that is that money was shared across the board, the way that food was managed was, at first we were located in Mesa, and so there was a block that had around four homes on it that different families lived in that were tight-knit, and my mother would cook one or two meals a day. So she almost always cooked dinner for everybody, and there was a lot of times we were cooking dinner for 80 people, and so I would go to school and I'd come home and I'd have to help cook dinner, and I would, help put salads together. It was actually how I learned how to cook. That part I actually really enjoyed. I enjoyed cooking with my mom. But we would cook for 80 people during that time, 80 to 100 people. And then later on down the road, years later, people started moving up outside of Payson to a more confined area. And it was more of a weather thing than it was anything else. When that began happening, we were 20 minutes from the closest grocery store. So what they began doing is they began ordering from Kraft. If you've, I don't think it's not Kraft anymore, but basically it was a food truck, the kind that delivers to restaurants. So we were ordering food on a massive scale. And they would order basically bulk items. 50-pound bags of flour and rice, and and then what they would do is they would divvy up the weekly stuff. So we had a storage room, and the storage room had like the flour and some like commodity items, some basic items, like bread, flour, sugar, bulk things. And then the more perishable items were delivered to our houses on a regular basis. And that was what you got. That was your groceries for the week. I never used, we had like 5 spices. So I knew how to cook anything with 5 to 10 ingredients. And I remember watching, there was a cooking show on for a while where they would come with a couple ingredients and have to cook something. And I was like, I could probably do that because we used to cook with just a handful of things. But we'd be in a house where we had 10 people living in the house, including 10 or 15 people living in the house, including kids and stuff like that. And, we'd get this box of food delivered at our door that had 5 apples in it or a bunch of bananas. There wasn't even enough for everybody. So between both of those experiences, when my mother was cooking large amounts of food, then moving to a place where we were cooking, where we got a box of food delivered, it created a lot of scarcity. This idea that, never quite feeling like it was enough, because there was never an abundance of food in the kitchen. It was always like, the next meal was always coming, but there was not a lot of stuff in between. And there was not a lot of diversity of what there was. My mother was cooking these meals, but 90% of the time it was some version of beans and rice or spaghetti or just, things that you could make large amounts to feed that many people. So we weren't talking about like real extensive meals. There was a lot of Mexican food because it's an inexpensive, easy way to feed a lot of people, and a lot of Italian stuff. And then we'd have these food boxes that got delivered, and we had 5 spices. We had salt, pepper, garlic, and some Italian spices. That was like the extent of almost everybody's cupboards, of course, unless you want to include the ministers in the church who had all kinds of extra stuff and got to get additional groceries in town on a regular basis. So their stores were, their food was completely different. So here's what happens. You create a very dysfunctional relationship with it. Or there's also the fact that you're eating something very different than what everybody else is eating. So you're giving a lot of money to the church, and you're struggling, and you're trying to get by, and you see this huge discrepancy. And in our situation, we're sharing money. So it was like, well, if we're all sharing money, then why are your bills getting paid and my bills not getting paid? And all this kind of stuff. And it didn't make a lot of sense to me either, because my dad was an attorney and made very good money. So I had we'll talk about some money stuff on another day. Today, I just want to talk about nutrition and so I grew up in this enormous amount of scarcity about food. So it made me always worried about when my next meal was coming. And it also, I could probably shovel food down quicker than most competitive eaters because I just had this horrible, there was just this scarcity of when the next meal was coming and where it was going to come from. And it was very, it's very damaging. So I've really had to spend a lot of time learning about nutrition and teaching myself a better way to eat. And then I had a weight problem on top of that because I had such bad ideas about food. So, one of the things that's important is to relearn how to have a healthy relationship with food. There's a lot of people out there who go the opposite extreme and just don't eat. But it doesn't matter where you're at. It's a dysfunction and it's a negative relationship. And here's how I teach people to create a better relationship with food. First off, there's 3 different things that I think are incredibly important. 1, how is that food going to make you feel? I never spent any time about figuring out how food made me feel. Did I feel nourished? Did I feel satiated? Did I savor it? We have a whole culture about food these days that doesn't really dig very deeply into enjoying the food that's in front of us. We're so busy, we're just shoveling shit down our throats. It's not healthy. So first thing I teach people is sit down and savor your food. Spend 20 minutes eating a meal while you're not doing anything else. Don't do it while you're working. Don't do it while you're driving down the road. Just sit down, put your phone away. Take a bite and taste it. And spend time swallowing and savoring whatever it is that you're eating. You deserve to enjoy that plate in front of you, or an apple, or whatever it is. Enjoy it. You do that, you'll change your relationship with food. Just that one thing will change your relationship with food. Second of all, eat when you're hungry. We eat on the run and we don't eat when we're hungry, and we don't pay attention to our bodies. We're not out doing a ton of physical work. We don't know this idea that everybody needs to eat 5 times a day and stuff like that. They've proven that that's not necessarily true. If you're shoveling food down your throat because you think you need to eat, now, unless you're somebody who will starve themselves, maybe you need to be on a schedule about it, but otherwise, work on eating when you actually feel like you're hungry, and then sit down and enjoy and eat a meal and eat till you're full. But if you eat more slowly and you savor the food that you'll eat, your body will be like, I'm full now, and you'll feel differently about it. The other thing is, see how food makes you feel. If you need to eliminate a bunch of stuff and then just start slowly adding things back in, do that. But there is nobody in the world that ever felt better after eating a McDonald's meal. McDonald's makes you feel like fucking shit. Most fast food makes you feel like shit. It does. No one ever felt better after that because it's not actually real food. So part of it is like recreate your relationship with food. And then the other thing about nutrition, and I'll go into this a little bit more in another video, is nutrition is not just what you eat. When I talk about nutrition, I'm talking about what are you feeding your mind, your body, and your soul. So today we just talked about relationship with food. I'm going to do another video on talking about how you feed yourself in other areas of your life. Because at the end of the day, you need to be a person that is just has so much good in them that it just pours out of you. But you have to be putting it in you for it to pour out of you. So that's what I want to help you do. So let's get rid of your food dysfunction. It's okay. I've been with the worst of them. I remember Thanksgiving was another one that would always get me, because Thanksgiving was the only time of year that we could get other things that were like, there was a couple times a year that we get things that were not in our normal food box. Thanksgiving was one of those where we'd actually be able to get stuff from the grocery store to make a dessert. It was limited, but it was like, whatever. So we would always do certain things. And I mean, if you don't know the shame in eating a pie all to yourself, because you know you're not going to have another pie for an entire year, then good. I really hope you don't know that shame. Nobody needs the shame of eating an entire pie to themselves. I hope you guys have an amazing day. As always, I'd love to give you a free life blueprint and connect with you. Please send me, please go to my website. Please subscribe. I would love you to subscribe and share this with other people who've also been in damaging backgrounds so that I can help them. But go to 100yearsofbliss.com, and I'd love to give you a free blueprint, and I hope you have an amazing day. See you soon.